saying, "Is this okay? Is this okay?" And I'm like, "Dude, whatever. Like, I
Right.
am totally okay with whatever you do. You go do it." I mean, he's one of my very close friends, and I would love to see him be Star-Lord again.
Well, it looks like Star-Lord is going to survive and the Guardians of the Galaxy as well, whatever soft reboot is to come to us after Avengers Secret Wars. No matter what this new reboot is or merger of universes is after Avengers Secret Wars, we know that some of the old characters are going to simply continue existing in the new MCU. And it looks like at least Star-Lord is going to be one of those people. The future of the old Guardians of the Galaxy team is still up in the air, but ironically enough, James Gunn, in an interview with the Happy Sad Confused podcast, did just seemingly confirm that Chris Pratt has been talking to him about what to do next with Star-Lord. He also did kind of confirm that he is still going to be involved with the Guardians of the Galaxy if and when Marvel Studios does decide to pull the trigger on that next movie. And this interview with Josh Horowitz from the podcast is pretty great. James Gunn is always pretty honest and open. And now that he's the head of DC Studios, he has not been shy about going online and confirming or debunking news and rumors out there that is either true or not true. But he dropped some news about his involvement with the next Guardians of the Galaxy films, if they do indeed make those, and specifically what Chris Pratt is up to right now when it comes to returning as Star-Lord. And this is going to sound kind of interesting, or maybe a little weird, but it sounds like we are going to get a legendary Star-Lord movie before we would get a new Guardians of the Galaxy movie. But don't worry, we'll talk about it and break it all down. I will say that he did say in this interview that Robert Downey Jr. returning as Doom was a really smart move by Marvel. And I've said this before, but it is a smart move because whether you liked it or not, or you're kind of in the middle sitting on the fence, you're talking about it and you're waiting to see what they're going to do with it. It certainly has people more interested in the MCU, I'd say, than they've been in a pretty long time. But here was something that was extremely interesting that kind of kicked off the Marvel side with this interview. Josh Horowitz asked James Gunn if and when they do more with Guardians, do they have to kind of keep you plugged in? Are you potentially a producer on a Guardians film when you're still with DC moving forward? And you can tell that James Gunn kind of thinks a little hard on what he's going to say here before he answers, but the answer might be kind of surprising to you.
Essentially a producer on a Guardians film when you're still with DC going forward?
Um, I don't know the exact legal answer to that. I think the answer is actually yes, but I'm not sure what the answer is. But
So you can tell he's thinking about contracts, right? What can he legally say here? And he even straight up says, I don't know the exact legal answer to that, but I think the answer is yes. But I'm not sure what the answer is. But I gotta tell you, I think that if they were going to do the Guardians of the Galaxy again as a full team, I think it would be really, really awesome if James Gunn was involved. Now, I'm going to talk about the legendary Star-Lord now, and this is going to be different than Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 4. Just to clarify that, there are two different projects. The legendary Star-Lord, which would be a movie on its own about Star-Lord, and then Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 4, which we assume would be about the new Guardians of the Galaxy team that we saw at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. We're talking about two different things because James Gunn in this interview talks about the future Guardians of the Galaxy projects that he would have done at Marvel Studios. He talks about a Avenger series they were talking about. He talks about a project about Rocket and Groot, but he ultimately says Marvel Studios wanted him to do Guardians 3 before he did a Rocket and Groot specific project, but he then goes on to say in this interview that Guardians 3 essentially became that project about Rocket and Groot. It was about completing the telling of the story of Rocket. So I'm not expecting a Rocket and Groot story, but he does talk about Chris Pratt and the legendary Star-Lord. He mentions that the legendary Star-Lord was something they had pretty much already planned when he was still there at Marvel. He said, the legendary Star-Lord, really, frankly, we had a whole idea for that. But it sounds like, based on what he said about conversations with Chris Pratt that we're about to go over, that the plans for the legendary Star-Lord project are still in play and are still moving at Marvel Studios. In the interview, James Gunn says, "I would love for Marvel Studios to continue on with the characters, to continue on with Guardians." He said, "I would love for them to do whatever they want to do with the Guardians. Take the characters, go do more stories. And Chris has my blessing, they have my blessing, they all have my blessing," is what James Gunn says. And then he says this about conversations he's had with Chris Pratt.
Chris has my blessing. Everybody, they all have my blessing. Like, Chris keeps saying, "Is this okay? Is this okay?" And I'm like, "Dude, whatever." Like, I am totally okay with whatever you do. You go do it. I mean, he's one of my very close friends, and I would love to see him be Star-Lord again.
So right here, it seems like James Gunn has confirmed that recently Chris Pratt has been talking to him about ideas for the legendary Star-Lord film or project. Whether they make that into a show or a movie, we're unsure. And he's asking James Gunn if this is okay to do because he's no longer there. And it's really nice because they did become great friends. He even says they're great friends right now. And also in this interview, Josh Horowitz asked him if anybody from the Guardians have been cast in anything coming up for DC that we might not know. And James Gunn basically says, yeah, we've had some pretty serious conversations. Nothing official yet with contracts signed, but the talks with them to actually play characters and appear in the DCU, the new one, that's happened. And he said that in the past as well, so expect to see some Guardians show up in the new DCU, which I think is cool because I really am excited for the new DCU. But back to Chris Pratt, it seems like they're working on the legendary Star-Lord project, and recently he's just asking James Gunn about certain things about it, probably plot ideas, story arcs, because keep in mind James Gunn wrote and directed all of the Guardians of the Galaxy films, so of course if he's one of your best friends, he's the perfect man to consult for it. But he's also asked James Gunn if it's okay, and James Gunn has given his blessing to not only Chris Pratt but Marvel Studios as well to continue with the Guardians. Now, I don't think we're getting another Guardians of the Galaxy movie until after Avengers Secret Wars, and I also don't really think we're going to be getting a legendary Star-Lord movie until after Secret Wars as well. However, I do think we'll get that before we get a new Guardians. Again, based on what James Gunn is saying, it does sound like Chris Pratt right now is actively working on what to do with Star-Lord next, and of course, we assume he's going to show up in Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars. After all, we know, thanks to the ending of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, he's on Earth right now. Peter Quill / Star-Lord is on Earth. So when everything starts to go down with Avengers Doomsday and he sees some of the people that he fought alongside with before in Avengers Endgame, and he sees Thor and he sees Spider-Man and basically, the heroes he fought with before, it would be kind of weird if he just sat on the side and watched everything happen. He's Star-Lord. He's a guardian of the galaxy. Earth is part of the galaxy, even though he's kind of retired or taking a break right now. He's not just going to sit on the sidelines. He's definitely going to join in. So that's how he gets involved in Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars. But keep in mind, these movies are going to be about a lot of people. Yes, there are going to be the leads of the films, like we know Tom Holland's Spider-Man's going to be a lead, Doctor Strange is going to be one, Doctor Doom, obviously, Reed Richards. There are going to be people and characters who are going to be a lot more integral to the story than others. Like Spider-Man is going to be more important or a bigger lead than She-Hulk. Doctor Strange will be a bigger lead and have more to do than Hawkeye, right? There's going to be a lot of characters involved, but the focus I think is really going to be kind of on a core group of characters who are the leaders of all of these different teams. And I do believe that we are going to have different teams doing different things. Just like we had in Avengers Infinity War, we had the 3 different groups. We had the Guardians with Iron Man and Strange on Titan. Then we had some of the other Guardians with Thor, Rocket and Groot with Thor. And then we had everybody at Wakanda. And everybody got really good screen time. So I'm not just saying these characters are just going to be in the background the whole entire time, not talking or anything like that. But with so many characters, and it's been reported that possibly over 60 characters are going to appear in Avengers Doomsday, Marvel Studios is going to focus on some characters more than others. And I think Star-Lord is going to be somewhere right along in the middle. And we also do know that the Russo brothers, who Chris Pratt has worked very closely with, even outside of Marvel, I'm sure they have something good planned for Star-Lord, but again, it's not going to be so much that this is what Chris Pratt has been working on himself for the future of Star-Lord. Whatever he's been working on, that's for his solo project. And at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy, after everything was said and done and the credits rolled, it did say the legendary Star-Lord will return. And James Gunn confirmed they had a lot of ideas for that. So right now, Chris Pratt is currently talking to James Gunn about Star-Lord, and he's saying, yeah, I want you to continue with Star-Lord. I give you my blessing. And he's also saying that he wasn't sure, but he thinks Marvel might have to legally consult with him for the next Guardians project. Then James Gunn might actually be involved with the Star-Lord project. Now, even if he's not officially involved, it is really cool that James Gunn has maintained a really good relationship with Kevin Feige and a really great relationship with Chris Pratt, because basically he would be consulting on the movie, even if it was in an unofficial way. Like, he would help his buddy Chris Pratt out, because even though James Gunn isn't at Marvel Studios anymore, he did build these characters on screen, and he does care about them and the actors that play them. So he would totally be willing, and it seems like he already is, helping Chris Pratt with the next steps for Star-Lord. Now, as far as the new Guardians of the Galaxy team is concerned, I do believe at some point in time, Marvel Studios will make another Guardians movie. We might have to wait a little bit on it, and it is going to be the new team, but we've heard that Nova is coming to the MCU soon, so perhaps after the legendary Star-Lord movie, perhaps that's when Chris Pratt retires from Marvel, we get Nova to come in and be a part of the Guardians, and perhaps that's when they're going to pick it up. If I had to guess, I would guess that's what they're going to do. But go ahead, let me know your thoughts about all of this in the comments down below. Would you be excited for the legendary Star-Lord movie? Because that is what I believe is coming, that Chris Pratt is working on right now, and he's consulting with James Gunn about that. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Please don't forget to like this video and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the latest MCU news, rumors, or leaks. And you can also find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. As always, thank you all so much for watching. Woof woof.